Invest Atlanta Facebook Live events for startups and scale-ups in the city as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic. Invest Atlanta is Atlanta's economic development agency and invests in its people, communities, and companies here in the city. My name is Nathan Regan, and I'm the Senior Vice President for Economic Development at Invest Atlanta, and our team supports attraction, retention, expansion, and technology, creative, and startups for the city. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we're laser focused on bringing resources and support to the community of startups and scale-ups in our community. To that end, we've partnered with the startup ecosystem to bring you today's information session. We'd like to thank Technology Association of Georgia, Metro Atlanta Chamber, ATDC, ATV, Silicon Valley Bank, Independent Community Bankers Association, Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative, Lab 1886, and the Atlanta CEO Council, and Mailchimp for their support in pulling today's event together. It's without our partners, we could not do stuff like this. So we're very thankful to all of our partners who are helping out. So I'm very excited about today's live event that we're doing. We'll be having two guests on today, serial entrepreneur and founder and CEO of GeorgiaALIVE, Mr. Ed Trimble. Ed will share with you his story of why he launched GeorgiaALIVE, its mission, its supporters, and how startup and scale-up companies and innovators can become engaged and support the initiative. Ed's the founder and CEO of GeorgiaALIVE, like I said. He's also the founder and CEO of sports gaming and analytics company, Georgia-based Fanbeat. Ed was previously the founder and CEO of e-government pioneer EasyGov, which assisted governments around the world in moving businesses and citizens to services online. He holds a degree in mechanical engineering from Duke. Ed is an active member of the Elder at the First Presbyterian Church of Atlanta, and his past honors include contributions from Ernst & Young Tech Entrepreneur of the Year and Duke University's Young Alumnus of the Year. He's an extremely proud father of his sons, Will, Charlie, and Davis. As we all know right now, we've all got children running around the house. I have a nine-year-old who's climbing the wall, so I'm sure that we can all identify with that. Ed's going to be giving his presentation, and you may submit questions in the comment section from Facebook. Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce Director of Smart Cities Ecosystem, Cynthia Curry, one of my favorite people in the entire world, will be joining us today. Cynthia has her hand on the pulse of everything that's tech in the city and smart cities. She and I have done some great business development work in the city and around the world. So excited to have both of these guys on with us today. And so without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ed and look forward to another exciting tech talk today. Ed, all yours.
Hi, Nathan. Thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing for the city and for the state. I'm pleased to have this opportunity today to share a bit about GeorgiaALIVE. So GeorgiaALIVE is an 11-day-old organization that I started along with some prominent business and community leaders that I can talk more about in a few minutes. And it's a Georgia corporation. We have pending nonprofit status, and you can read all about the organization at GeorgiaALIVE.org. We really have, let me speak first to the origins of the organization. So going back to early March, I was concerned about the spread of the coronavirus around the world and into the United States. We just had our first cases, our first deaths out in Washington State. And we had some really good snapshot data out there from places like Johns Hopkins. We're all familiar with the dashboard that was up and very useful in the early days. But we didn't have, or I couldn't find any good trend data to show us what was happening with this virus, to give us an idea of what was coming next week, next month, and beyond. And so I created a model, essentially a giant Google sheet, and began tracking, along with my 21-year-old son, Will Trimble, the growth of the virus in various countries, in the United States, and down at the state level, including Georgia. And at that time, we only had cases in Georgia and no deaths. And what I quickly realized was that the case data the number of people infected that a lot of people had so much focus on was essentially worthless from a modeling and predictive standpoint, because our testing at that point, and really still, was well behind where it should be. And so I focused really on the deaths and the death curve, as I call it, as a predictive indicator of what was happening with the virus. And as I began looking at that and tracking that and putting together some early forecasts on that, it turned out to be a very accurate predictor of the growth and spread of the virus. I began sharing that model with some early folks involved in GeorgiaALIVE, Tom Noonan, Charles Brewer, the Reverend Tony Sundermeyer, Fred Asaf, who's the head of Pace Academy, and others. And they encouraged me to publish this information, which I started doing on Twitter and on Facebook. And then eventually we all agreed, along with Jenna Keller, who I'll talk more about, who's been really instrumental to this whole effort. We decided to form this organization, GeorgiaALIVE. And that was, again, going back about 11 days. At that point, we went to work. We extended our steering committee, as it became known, and added a group of founding principals, many tech CEOs in Atlanta and beyond, and just folks that were really passionate about this battle against coronavirus. And Jenna Keller and 3 marketing agencies, including Trevelino Keller, Narwhal, and Market Wake, began working on our website. They issued a press release. They began working on a social campaign that has morphed into a successful kind of celebrity-driven campaign that you can find out on our social channels. And we've been running hard ever since. And what unites this group is a battle against this coronavirus, against this pandemic crisis that we have. In GeorgiaALIVE, we really have a dual mission and a dual vision for this. GeorgiaALIVE, in the name, says that our first priority has been saving lives in Georgia. But ALIVE is also an acronym for a leadership initiative for a vital economy. So we've had that duality of mission, saving lives and helping Georgia safely and efficiently restart their economy, since the very beginning of the organization. And that's really core to who we are. The steering committee has expanded to include people like Emory's president, Claire Stirk, the EVP of Research and Development at Georgia Tech, Shawi Abdallah. We also have other clergymen on the team beyond Reverend Tony Sundermeyer. Rabbi Peter Berg is involved. Raphael Warnock, Reverend Gerald Durley. We have other young business leaders like Bird Blitch, CEO of Patient Co., Will DuPont, who is a senior executive at Capgemini, Sanjay Parekh, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with all his great work in the startup world in Atlanta. And I'm sure I'm leaving a few folks out here, but it's all at GeorgiaALIVE.org. It speaks. If you click on the supporters tab at the top, you can see all the people that are involved today, and many, many more principals who are really active. So our work has really come into focus around 3 key initiatives. The first initiative we call public awareness, and that's led by Jenna Keller at Trevelino Keller. And it is educating and engaging Georgia citizens, Georgia businesses, Georgia leaders in this common fight that we have against the virus. And we view this fight as a fight all the way through us all getting vaccinated, likely next spring, maybe early summer, if you believe the predictions that are out there. So this is not a short-term fight. This is a longer-term fight of 12 months or more, at least through vaccination. So the public awareness initiative and the committee that's formed around that, and the celebrity campaign that I can talk a little bit more about, is one of our initiatives. The second initiative is innovation, being led by Ben Balsley. And I'll spend more time talking about that because I think that's really relevant to this audience. The third campaign is called Back to Work, and that's being led by Dr. Will Sharp. And It's our latest initiative and committee, and it's really forward-looking, again, trying to be helpful, influential in getting Georgia businesses safely back to work, restarting our economy, all in support of Georgia state and local governments. And so that's a key third initiative for us. So that kind of paints a picture, I think, of the scope of what we're doing. The public awareness, the celebrity campaign that's live on our social channels, you can, go find it on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter right now. But just to share a few fun examples on that, the campaign theme is "Keep Your Blank Inside," and so we've had a number of celebrities get involved. Chase Elliott, the NASCAR driver, "Keep Your Engines Inside." Kirby Smart, Coach Smart, "Keep Your Dogs Inside." Emily Giffen, who is one of our steering committee members, has been a big supporter. "Keep Your Books Inside," a best-selling author here in Atlanta. And then Sanjay Parekh, you'll all appreciate his post when you go out and see it. "Keep Your Startup Inside." So again, this is encouraging all Georgians to do your part, to stay inside, to stay safe. Let's stop the spread of this virus. And the good news is that through our work and all the great work being done by lots of folks out there, the curve is flattening, social distancing is working, and we're making progress in slowing down the spread and the deaths of the virus in the short term here in Georgia. I'd like to take just a couple of minutes before we open it up to Q&A to talk about our innovation initiative, because I think that's the most relevant thing for this audience. So as we got this off the ground, as all the tech folks became involved and backing this initiative, my inbox started getting flooded with all the COVID-19 innovation that's taking place around the state and in the startup community. And it's so inspiring and so amazing. I couldn't keep up with it. But I've tapped Ben Balsley, has agreed, a very successful entrepreneur here in Atlanta, to head up that group. He's formed a committee. They're actively working on this, and all that innovation that's flowed into my inbox is now in the hands of that committee, and they are kind of filtering through it, looking at it, figuring out how we can be helpful to those entrepreneurs and to those companies, startups and scale-ups, trying to respond to COVID-19. At the same time, Georgia Tech and Emory and all their great research and work being done in their labs is also plugged in to that innovation initiative and that committee. And I would encourage any of you, this is my main message today, if you have COVID-19 initiatives that you're working on and you are looking for promotion, awareness out into the community, we want to help. If you are looking for access into hospitals and businesses in the broader community, we want to help. If you're looking for potentially some seed funding, small dollars to help you get what you're doing to the next level, we may be able to help. And lastly, really all the VCs in town that we've known for a long time are at one level or another engaged in GeorgiaALIVE, again, as a nonprofit. And where it makes sense, we can also engage those VCs. So you should think of us as a conduit for your innovation, to get it to market, to get it to where it can be helpful, to save Georgia lives and to restart the economy. And I think we can play the role of a trusted conduit because, again, we're a nonprofit. We're not looking to profit on anything that you're doing. We will not share it outside of the GeorgiaALIVE organization without your permission. I can't promise that we can get it to market or get it funded or take it to the next level, but I can promise that you'll have some very smart people looking at it, considering it. I'll go ahead and answer this question. We likely will not be able to sign an NDA, just given the nature of that. But again, you have my word, our organization's word, that it will not go outside the walls of GeorgiaALIVE to others without your permission. So please consider us a resource. And the way you get that to our organization is we have a mailbox set up, an email box, innovation@georgiaalive.org. .com may also be active, but please for now use innovation@georgiaalive.org. and hopefully we can be helpful to you. That's the role that we're trying to play here in Georgia on the innovation side. Last thing that I would like to mention, we have not been focused on donations. We're all just running as hard as we can, trying to help Georgia. But we are raising money to support these initiatives, public awareness, innovation, and back to work. We are now talking with not just individuals, but also corporations and philanthropic organizations. And we have a donation section on our website. So to the extent that you feel inspired, we would love to have you participate. We're highlighting our donors in various ways on the site, recognizing all the great work that they are doing. Our CFO, Noel Barnes, is the former CFO of the Woodruff Arts Center. So we have, serious nonprofit people involved in this, working on this, managing the donations that are coming in. So I think I'll stop there. I could keep going, but I would love to hand it back over to Cynthia and open it up for any questions you all might have.
Thank you so much, Ed. That's amazing. I can't believe all you've done in 11 days. And I want to give a quick thank you right now to Invest Atlanta, Amy and Nathan, and the work that they've been doing to help make sure that Atlanta is strong and vibrant and still thriving in this unprecedented time. I know that y'all please make sure that you put your questions. We've got a couple in there on the chat space, but please include yours. I want to give a quick plug. The Chamber has a similar initiative happening that we've been working on for a while. It's not specifically focused on COVID-19, but the Center for Global Health Innovation is doing a lot of work on resource integration and better information, and kind of making sure that in addition to and in complement to making sure that the area is prepared to deal with things like this in the future. So we do have right now about your findings about the access to Georgia for the two type of testing, the testing of if you're positive and negative in the moment, and then also the antibiotic testing, assuming that they're referring to the test that can show you if you've had it or not. We all know that so many people have this without showing any symptoms at all. So it's really hard to know if you are immune to the next round or not. So is that included in any of your work?
Yes, it certainly is. It's a focus, and it will be a massive focus of ours, particularly with this innovation committee that I just mentioned is 4 days old. The Back to Work committee is 2 days old. There are really heavyweights getting involved in this and focused on this right now. And we all recognize that for our citizenry to feel safe and to be able to go back to work, which we all want to do, the state would like us to do. It's important for our economy. It saves lives, saves livelihoods. The key to that is widespread, rapid testing and being able to, and those aren't one-time tests, right? You need repeatable tests. We're not sure exactly what this looks like. People are going back into an office environment. Maybe you take a weekly test to determine your status, and these are the kinds of things that people are talking about and thinking about. So we are approaching testing in two of our committees right now. One on the innovation side,
Okay.
Ben Balsley. There's a lot of work being done on this with Shawi Abdallah at Georgia Tech. A lot of the initiatives are around testing. There's a particular venture capitalist here in town who also has access to a lot of rapid tests that are available that we're trying to facilitate and help get into the market.
Mm-hmm.
But, if anyone's working on this, involved in this, again, innovation, back to work initiative, it's certainly, really core and kind of foundational to our efforts over the next, say, 3 to 9 months.
That's great. I know that a lot of the different organizations around the Metro Atlanta area are working on that. I know Emory's got some testing in the process as well. And we're so thankful to Georgia Tech and CVS for establishing the drive-through testing facility that's open now at Georgia Tech. So it's amazing what y'all have all done in this short amount of time. We're seeing a few questions on work that you're doing outside the metro area. So specifically Albany, or just any of the work that's outside of the metro area. Can you touch on what you're doing in that space a little bit?
Yes. So, this has been one of the challenges in this thing happening so quickly. It's been very natural to get the Atlanta business community and the Atlanta community leaders behind it. But we're making a real effort to reach out to North Georgia, to reach out to South Georgia, to get business and community leaders involved from those regions, because this is a Georgia initiative. It's not an Atlanta initiative. And some of our steering committee members have, access into the governor's office, and we're very much working at that level. But, outside of Atlanta, the problem, and you mentioned Albany as being one of the early hot spots there. It's just as important, if not more important, than the Atlanta metro area. I'll give you just one example. So, Aaron's furniture rental business. It's long time, very successful Atlanta business. Their head of public affairs, government affairs, Robbie Camerson, who I've known for a long time, is involved with GeorgiaALIVE, and is being very helpful to us on a number of different levels. Aaron's is one of our early silver sponsors, but Aaron's converted a plant down in Cairo, Georgia, and is producing masks and gowns down there. So cool. Wonderful initiative. We're highlighting it on GeorgiaALIVE. And so we're looking for that innovation that's taking place outside of Atlanta in the broader Georgia community. And that's very much a focus of ours.
That's great. So I'll just put out a call to action to everyone listening, spread the word, right? And we've got to make sure that people know about what you're doing and direct you to help. I love, we chatted a little bit about it before we went live about the Atlanta way, that we all tend to really work together in a normal time. And it's really been so refreshing and really inspiring to see how all the Atlanta companies, Metro Atlanta companies, Georgia companies are really rising together to really put all of their resources together to help solve this problem.
Can I give another shout out? I'm giving out lots of shout outs.
Do another one, as many as you want. Yes.
So, I could go on and on, but Kyle Porter, the CEO of SalesLoft.
SalesLoft, we love him.
We love him. He's giving money, he's given his time, but he emailed me early on and said, Ed, I've got a billboard for you. Can you use a billboard? And so there's a billboard going up at 14th and Peachtree, courtesy of SalesLoft, that's going to have the GeorgiaALIVE message and a call to action. And I just approved the creative this morning. I think Kyle signed off on it. I mean, it's so inspiring. Every day my inbox just is lit up with offers like that to help. And it is the Atlanta way. It is all of us coming together to fight this common enemy.
That's great. Another question that we're seeing is communication with government entities, how the policies would affect future projections. Are y'all having any communication with the government? What does that look like?
So, I would describe that more as informal channels right now.
Because you're 11 days old. We're
11 days old. We have folks on our steering committee who certainly have the ear of, people at the highest levels within state government. And we're trying to be supportive, and we're trying to be helpful, and we want everything that we do to really align with, in support of state and local government. So I would love to see us take those informal channels and formalize them in some ways. And we have a couple of new steering committee members coming on board who I think are going to be helpful in that. But I have great sympathy for our governor and the state government. This is a unprecedented challenge. It is, there's no, playbook for it. We're trying to balance decision making. There's lots of voices, coming in. GeorgiaALIVE is just one small voice, right? There's so many other loud voices, and I'm sure it's very, very noisy at the highest levels of our state government, trying to figure out how to move forward and how to make some of these decisions. So, my message to the state of Georgia, if anyone's listening, is GeorgiaALIVE is, we're here to be helpful. We're here to be supportive. We want to align what we're doing with what you all need. That's our vision for the organization.
That's great. And going back to vaccines, there's a question on timing. Do you have any insight on the timing of production and availability of the two different vaccines?
I do not. I hesitate to even mention this, but because I have a source, I'll give this. Someone shared a graphic from Morgan Stanley, which had some projections on where this was going. I shared it with my steering committee the other night because it really painted the picture of, okay, we're maybe coming over the peak or plateau. We're not sure the shape of this curve of the first big wave. Social distancing has been more effective than a lot of us
Thank
thought.
you, everyone.
Yeah, amen. So that's the great news. Now we're going to kind of move into this back to work, restart the economy. I call it the whack-a-mole phase, where it's going to pop up and we're trying to fight it back. And then, God forbid, there's a second wave that comes in the fall. Let's hope not. We have to do everything we can to prevent that. Let's hope the virus doesn't mutate. We have to do everything that we can to track that, prevent that, avoid that. But, Morgan Stanley, as part of that, was projecting that perhaps healthcare workers could get vaccines at the end of this year, and then the broader public could get vaccines, let's say springtime of next year.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, that there's an emergency provision that can allow immediate healthcare workers to maybe get the vaccine earlier, which would be fabulous.
Yeah.
Another question, I know we're short on time, but someone's curious about how, if you're taking the data that you're learning and taking a look at how the different communities are impacted. I know we've just seen such heartbreaking data on how underprivileged communities are really suffering more. Things like that. Are you planning on doing anything with the data? Are you tracking where and which communities are more effective, or is that post-mortem, or how are you dealing with that?
No, we have some of that data. And again, my son, Will Trimble, who's kind of been senior analyst on a lot of this, was even at one point trying to forecast down at the regional hospital level what was happening. And we've since kind of abandoned that effort. It wasn't as helpful. But in terms of looking at we don't have to look to the future anymore. We can look at the recent past and where we are today. There's good data out there on what communities are being hit harder than others. And Cynthia, I mentioned before our call, this is the mental health, psychological impact of this on certain communities, certain individuals, the potential rise in suicide rates that we all fear maybe coming is an interest or an area of deep interest for me as well. And we have not officially adopted that or embraced that as GeorgiaALIVE, but it's something we're going to be actively discussing in our steering committee members, and maybe another initiative and a committee that forms up to see what we can do to help fight the battle on that front.
And I so commend you for that. I mean, we chatted a little bit about it, but the mental health effects are fully as real as the physical health effects. So I think that it's really, really important that we all acknowledge that the two are aligned. And before we head out, I just want to kind of give some kudos to the website that y'all have created and the work that you've done. I encourage everyone to really go out and take a look at the website. There's some great charts out there. There's all kinds of fun stuff that you can buy, onesies and t-shirts and things.
Yeah, the shop's fun. Yeah.
Help spread the word. I assume all of those funding and fundraising will go towards your efforts.
So the merchandise on the shop, I told the team, I said, sell it at cost. This is not about making any money. And so all that, the $20 t-shirts pays for, I don't know, the t-shirt and the shipping perhaps. But okay. I have to give 3 more quick shout outs since you brought it up. Jenna Keller, who I mentioned earlier at Trevelino Keller. If you don't know this firm, they're a long-time PR and marketing firm, Dean Trevelino and Jenna Keller. She's quarterbacked this whole thing. All right. So whatever I've done, multiply it times 5, and that's been Jenna Keller running this whole thing, the website, the social campaigns, the media activity, the steering committee. She's been fantastic. And then two firms that have worked with her. If you like our website, that's Narwhal Digital, Jennifer Reddy. She's, I think, the best in town at building beautiful, functional websites. They stood that website up in 3 days.
Wow, and it's amazing.
GeorgiaALIVE.org. Take a look. They stood that up in 3 days. Incredible. She's got great people there with her. And then the last one is the social campaigns. Keep your dogs inside, keep your engines inside. Brook Beach and Market Wake. They're very active with the ATDC and Atlanta Tech Village, startup community. They're driving all that beautiful creative. Everything we're doing on social is Market Wake. So all those folks have done that pro bono, right, as a donation to GeorgiaALIVE and what we're all trying to do.
That's great. You're gathering so much data, and I know you'll only continue to gather it as time goes. Do you have, and you might not have even discussed it yet because you're in the thick of the present, but have y'all talked about kind of things that you might do with all this amazing, valuable data, once we get over the need for the immediate responses and what you might do with it post-mortem and how it might be leveraged? I'm a data freak, so that's my question.
Well, Cynthia, I'm going to give you access to the model. If you're a data nerd like me, you'll be able to see. We started tracking it all on March 7th, and there's some really fascinating learnings in there. I know we're short on time, but Italy was a leading indicator and still is for us in Georgia. New York's a leading indicator for us in Georgia. And so Italy has brought their 3-day moving average death rate growth all the way down from the 30-something percentiles down to, I didn't look today, but around 3%. Now, unfortunately, that's still hundreds of deaths a day, because 3% on a very large number. But they have smashed their curve, and now they're getting ready to try to restart and reopen their economy. And other European countries are also ahead of us in that way, and they're doing it different ways. And so not just watching what they do, but then watching the results and the data is where so much of the value of this comes in that can inform policy.
And do you know off the top of your head where Georgia is? I think I saw every 9 days we're doubling in deaths.
Yeah, so it got updated last night, and the reporting is a little bit uneven coming out of Georgia HHS. And so we don't get the full report necessarily on the weekends. So Mondays tend to be a little higher. It's why we use a 3-day moving average, but it's right there on the site. It's in the data section. I think you're right. It's currently deaths in Georgia are doubling every 9 days. That's way too many, but it's down from at one point, I think at the peak, Georgia deaths were doubling every 3.5 days.
Right. So at least we're moving forward.
We're making progress. We really are.
I think that we're probably out of time. Again, I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Invest Atlanta is going to send out a summary, and on that it'll be your website, your social media campaigns. I encourage everyone to get involved, share, follow, tweet, Instagram, IG, all of it, so that we can help share the message. And we cannot thank you enough for all the work you're doing, and such an amazing, quick effort. And I love seeing the Atlanta community and the Metro Atlanta community and the Georgia community kind of rise together and join forces to kind of make the most of this horrible situation. So I'll push it back to Amy, and thank you so much, Invest Atlanta, Nathan and Amy, for facilitating this. We adore you guys.
Thank you, Cynthia. I think I heard most of the end of your message, and Ed, this is fantastic. I'm getting all kinds of communications coming through during this live presentation. So many people encouraged and excited. It's wonderful to see the innovation and the entrepreneurial spirit of this initiative, and how many people from that community are engaged with this. We very much appreciate you. We appreciate Cynthia. We appreciate all of our partners who have helped us put this together, including the Metro Atlanta Chamber, Technology Association of Georgia, ATDC, ATV, Silicon Valley Bank, the Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative, Independent Community Bankers Association, Atlanta CEO, all of the above. It's a growing and wonderful group of partners that have helped us put these on. And as Cynthia said, we've recorded it. We'll send out a link. And if you'd like to be added to the Invest Atlanta Technology Innovation Distro, please email Lexi Newhouse, and she will post that email in the comments chat. And again, thank you all for joining us and for the great support. Spread the word and stay safe. Thanks.